There's a moment of profound psychological liberation that occurs when you finally break free from the invisible chains of narcissistic control. When you step out of the psychological prison they've constructed around your mind and heart. When you reclaim what Carl Jung would recognize as your authentic selfhood after months or years of psychological captivity. But what most people don't understand about this escape is that freedom from a narcissist isn't just the absence of their manipulation. It's the beginning of a profound journey of rediscovering who you are beneath the layers of conditioning, trauma responses, and defensive adaptations you develop to survive their psychological warfare. If you've recently escaped or are in the process of escaping from a narcissist's grip, if you're wondering what lies ahead on this path of reclaiming your authentic self, if you're curious about the profound transformations that await you on the other side of narcissistic abuse, then you need to understand what Jung would call the individuation process through shadow integration, the beautiful, challenging, and ultimately liberating journey of becoming whole after psychological fragmentation. Hit that like button if you're ready to explore this territory of healing and transformation, and subscribe with notifications on, because we're about to examine not just what you're escaping from, but what you're escaping into. A life of authentic freedom, genuine self-knowing, and the capacity for real love that narcissistic abuse tried to destroy but could never truly touch. The first thing that happens when you escape a narcissist's grip is what I call the silence phase. A period of profound psychological quiet that can feel both deeply peaceful and strangely unsettling. For months or years, your nervous system has been in a constant state of hypervigilance, scanning for threats, anticipating attacks, bracing for the next wave of manipulation or emotional terrorism. When that threat is finally removed, when the psychological storm finally stops, your entire system needs time to recalibrate to the reality of actual safety. Jung would recognize this as the psyche's natural healing response, what he called the return to psychological homeostasis after chronic activation. Your mind, body, and spirit need time to remember what it feels like to exist without constant threat, to think your own thoughts without anticipating criticism, to feel your own emotions without fear of punishment or exploitation. This silence phase often brings unexpected emotions. You might feel grief for the time you lost, anger at yourself for staying so long, confusion about what's real and what was manipulation, or even strange longing for the intensity and drama that defined your daily existence. These responses are completely normal. Your psyche is processing the end of what was essentially psychological captivity, and like any prisoner adjusting to freedom, the initial experience can be overwhelming. During this phase, you might notice that you have difficulty making simple decisions: what to eat, what to watch, how to spend your time. This isn't weakness. It's evidence of how thoroughly the narcissist's control infiltrated your sense of autonomous choice. Jung would understand this as the gradual return of personal agency after systematic suppression, your authentic desires and preferences slowly emerging from beneath layers of conditioning designed to make you responsive to their needs rather than aware of your own. The second major transformation is what I call the identity reconstruction phase. One of the most insidious aspects of narcissistic abuse is how it systematically dismantles your sense of self, replacing your authentic identity with a version that serves their psychological needs. When you escape their grip, you begin the profound work of separating who you really are from who they conditioned you to be. This process often begins with disturbing realizations about how much of your personality, your opinions, your preferences, and even your emotional responses were actually adaptations to their abuse rather than authentic expressions of your true self. You might discover that you've been performing emotions you didn't actually feel, expressing opinions you didn't genuinely hold, or engaging in behaviors that felt foreign to your authentic nature. Jung would recognize this as the shadow work of disentangling authentic self from trauma responses. The careful process of examining each aspect of your current identity to determine whether it represents genuine selfhood or adaptive survival strategy. This isn't about judging the adaptations you made. They kept you psychologically alive in an impossible situation. It's about consciously choosing which aspects of your survival identity you want to retain and which ones you're ready to release as no longer necessary. The identity reconstruction phase can be deeply disorienting because you might discover that you don't know who you are without the organizing principle of their abuse to react to. Your authentic self has been buried under layers of hypervigilance, people-pleasing, emotional numbing, and defensive strategies for so long that rediscovering it feels like meeting a stranger, a beautiful, vulnerable, powerful stranger who is actually you. The third transformation is what I call the trust recalibration phase. Narcissistic abuse doesn't just damage your trust in the abuser, it systematically destroys your ability to trust your own perceptions, instincts, and emotional responses. When you escape their grip, you begin the delicate work of rebuilding trust in your own inner knowing, while developing healthier patterns of trust in others. This phase often involves a period of what Jung would call conscious discernment development, learning to distinguish between healthy caution born of wisdom and trauma-based hypervigilance that keeps you isolated from authentic connection. You're not trying to return to naive trust. You're developing what I call mature trust, the ability to remain open to genuine relationship while maintaining the discernment to recognize and avoid exploitative dynamics. You might notice that your intuition, which was systematically invalidated during the abuse, begins to return with surprising strength and accuracy. The gut feelings that the narcissist trained you to dismiss as paranoia or oversensitivity reveal themselves to be profound sources of wisdom about people's character and intentions. Jung would understand this as the return of the transcendent function, your natural ability to integrate conscious observation with unconscious wisdom to navigate complex interpersonal situations. During this phase, you might experience what feels like social anxiety or difficulty connecting with others. But this is often actually your newly awakened discernment, refusing to engage in the superficial or manipulative interactions that once felt normal. You're not becoming antisocial, you're becoming more selective about the quality of connection you're willing to accept. The fourth major transformation is what I call the emotional authenticity return. One of the most devastating effects of narcissistic abuse is how it teaches you to suppress, distort, or perform your emotions rather than feel and express them authentically. When you escape their grip, your genuine emotional nature begins to resurface, often with surprising intensity and complexity. You might experience emotions you haven't felt in years: pure joy without anxiety, anger without fear of punishment, sadness without shame, excitement without the need to contain it to avoid triggering their jealousy or rage. Jung would recognize this as the return of emotional sovereignty, the ability to feel what you feel without immediately editing, censoring, or adapting your emotional responses to manage someone else's psychological instability. This emotional authenticity return can be overwhelming because emotions that were suppressed during the abuse often emerge with accumulated intensity. You might find yourself crying for reasons you can't fully articulate, feeling rage about things that happened months or years ago, or experiencing joy so pure it feels almost too intense to bear. These are not signs of instability. They're signs of emotional healing. The fifth transformation is what I call the creative renaissance phase. Narcissistic abuse systematically crushes creativity, spontaneity, and authentic self-expression because these qualities represent psychological freedom that threatens the narcissist's control. When you escape their grip, your natural creative energy often returns with remarkable force and clarity. You might find yourself drawn to artistic expression, writing, music, dance, or other creative outlets that felt impossible or dangerous during the abuse. You might discover talents, interests, or passions that were buried so deeply you'd forgotten they existed. Jung would understand this as the return of the creative function, the natural human drive to express authentic inner experience through external creation. This creative renaissance isn't just about artistic expression. It includes creativity in problem solving, relationship building, career development, and life design. You begin to approach your existence as a work of art rather than a survival strategy, making choices based on authentic desire rather than fear-based calculation. The sixth major transformation is what I call the spiritual awakening phase. Many survivors of narcissistic abuse experience a profound spiritual opening when they escape the psychological prison of the relationship. This isn't necessarily religious awakening, though it can be. It's more often a recognition of the sacred dimension of your own existence, a connection to something larger than the small, frightened self that the abuse tried to convince you was all you were. Jung would recognize this as the return of connection to the self with a capital S. the archetypal center of psychological wholeness that narcissistic abuse tried to sever you from. You begin to experience yourself not just as a collection of trauma responses and survival strategies, but as a profound expression of consciousness, creativity, and love. This spiritual awakening often includes a deep appreciation for the journey itself, including the darkness you've traveled through. You begin to see your survival of narcissistic abuse not as evidence of your victimization, but as proof of your incredible strength, resilience, and commitment to truth and authentic love. The seventh transformation is what I call the conscious relationship capacity development. Perhaps the most beautiful aspect of escaping a narcissist's grip is the gradual development of your capacity for genuine, healthy, mutually nurturing relationships. This doesn't happen immediately. Trust and intimacy skills need time to heal and develop, but when it does happen, it's profound. You begin to attract and be attracted to people who appreciate your authentic self rather than trying to manipulate or control you. You develop the ability to set boundaries without guilt, to express needs without shame, to give love without losing yourself, and to receive love without suspicion or self-sabotage. Jung would understand this as the development of mature relationship capacity through individuation, the ability to be fully yourself while genuinely encountering others as separate, complete beings worthy of respect and capable of authentic connection. The eighth and perhaps most profound transformation is what I call the integration and wisdom phase. This is where you begin to understand that your experience with narcissistic abuse, while traumatic and painful, has also given you profound insights into human psychology, the nature of authentic love, and the importance of psychological sovereignty that many people never develop. You don't become grateful for the abuse. That would be spiritual bypassing and psychologically unhealthy. But you do become grateful for your own courage in surviving it, your commitment to healing from it, and the wisdom and compassion it has developed in you. You recognize that you've been through a form of psychological initiation that has made you stronger, wiser, and more capable of genuine love than you ever were before. This wisdom phase often includes a natural desire to help others who are still trapped in narcissistic relationships or struggling to heal from them. Your hard-won insights become a gift you can offer to others, not from a place of trauma bonding or codependency, but from a place of genuine compassion and practical wisdom. Jung would recognize this as the return of the wounded healer archetype, the person who has transformed their own suffering into a source of healing and wisdom for others. Your escape from the narcissist's grip doesn't just free you. It creates the possibility for you to become a beacon of hope and practical guidance for others still fighting for their freedom. The journey of escaping a narcissist's grip is not linear, and it's not quick. It requires tremendous courage, patience with yourself, and often professional support to navigate the complex psychological terrain of healing from this level of psychological trauma. But what awaits you on the other side is nothing less than the reclamation of your authentic self, your natural capacity for joy and creativity, your ability to love and be loved genuinely, and your connection to the profound strength and wisdom that carried you through the darkness and into the light. Take time to reflect on where you are in this journey and share in the comments which phase of escape and recovery resonates most with your current experience. Remember to subscribe for more insights into the healing journey, and know that every step you take toward authentic freedom is not just healing for you. It's healing for everyone whose life you touch with your reclaimed authenticity and hard-won wisdom. Your escape from narcissistic control isn't just personal liberation. It's a victory for the human spirit's indomitable drive toward truth, love, and authentic connection. The narcissist tried to convince you that you were small, broken, and powerless. Your escape proves that you are magnificent, resilient, and capable of creating a life of genuine beauty and meaning.